Hello and welcome to Session Zero. I'm Lincoln L. Hayes in my new apartment in a new year with the latter half Season 1. Turns out I got a lot of ideas and my friends have a lot of ideas too, so the show will never end. Don't tell Rachel that, she'll murder us all. This episode is with new players who've been playing basically since the pandemic began as a quarantine hobby. You don't need to hear any more from me. Let's see their charming faces and welcome everybody to the show. We got a great group of folks here. I'm going to start in my upper left, working my way around the square. I'm going to say who you are. Tell us your role or your character, because we do have a dungeon master here with us, and how long you've been playing. So first up is our old buddy Ted. I think this is your fourth or fifth appearance on the show.
Possibly. Yeah, could
welcome
be.
back, Ted.
Thank you.
How long have you been playing this very game of Dungeons and or Dragons?
I have been playing this very game of Dungeons and or Dragons since March of 2020. As you mentioned, it was a quarantine hobby, and really my wife Lucy, who is also on the show, just really kind of been saying for a while, like, yeah, Rachel and Lincoln, they play Dungeons and Dragons. I really want to kind of try it. And I've always been like, no, it's too much. No, I can't do it. And then all of a sudden, March 2020 hits and we have nothing to do. So it's like, okay, let's give it a shot. And I thought it was funny. You sent the prep questions for us beforehand, and the one question is I don't want to give anything of the show away. How far down the rabbit hole have you gone? And it's like I am the rabbit. This is because it's just kind of taken over. It's like all I kind of do at the moment. So
there you have it. Speaking of your aforementioned wife, Lucy, welcome to the show.
Hello.
Tell us
Thank
about
you for
your
having
characters
me.
and your short time here playing D&D.
Yeah, so I've always been interested in playing. It's always been one of those like on the list things to do, but there's a bit of a stigma around kind of getting into it, and will I be like, will the other nerds be mean to me kind of thing. So like Ted was saying, we started as a quarantine hobby back in March with you and your lovely wife. And currently now my two characters, I have Therarak, who is a half-orc fighter, and Zavari, who is a tiefling cleric, while we are running Out of the Abyss. And it's been really fun.
Next up, on his return to the show, Matthew, welcome back. Tell us a little bit about Bolmeris.
Bolmeris is a wood elf, and he only has his underwear and a big axe, and he can't read, and he has a big mustache. And he's not here to be well-read. He's here to bring heart to our party. And so he's going to get Out of the Abyss. Trademark.
And how long have you been playing?
Since Ted and Lucy hit up Andre and I and said, do y'all want to play D&D together? And we said yes. Now, I had played D&D just like 2 one-shots in the past just to try it out. And it was way harder because we had all the forms and had to spend like 4 hours figuring out who we were. But this time I just kind of like made myself and became myself.
Amen. And you have a myconid buddy named Stool.
I do. I have a little cat right beside me, but also I didn't mean to say that. I have a cat right here, but in the game I have a small little mushroom man named Stool that I carry on my back at all times, and can't really kill him off, and I won't let him.
He's the heart and soul of our team, that's for sure. Next up, newcomer to the show, Jenn Petti, buddy from college. You have the shortest tenure. How long have you been playing D&D?
Yeah, hello. Go Bears, baby. Yeah, so I am playing Callista, a human Twilight Domain cleric, and November, and I'm playing in a homebrewed Ancient Greece campaign, which has been very fun, especially because all the Spartans have Cockney accents.
Which I think is traditional of ancient Greece.
Yeah, that's canon.
If I learned anything from Gladiator, British accents.
It's that, yeah.
Another newcomer to the show, one of my players. I introduced this little baby to the game. Welcome to the show, Cori. Tell us about Nocturna.
So Nocturna is your kind of hippie festival goer elven druid who would rather hang out in the trees and amongst animals than with people. And we may or may not have a lot in common. So I might be playing a little bit to type, but she's been fun.
One of my favorite things that happened in all of D&D, first session, we're playing a one-shot that Ted actually introduced me to with our group, and we're in this jungle setting, and we're in this camp, and there's some guards kind of walking around, and Nocturna's like, I want to go talk to this guard. I was like, all right, cool, go over there. She's talking to him. She's like, I want to see if he wants to smoke weed with me. I was like, okay, that sounds fun. Go for it. She goes, all right, I don't know what I'm doing. Natural 20. I was like, all right, you and this guard just get fucking stoned, and it's great. And then that became her thing. She's very good at finding marijuana in the jungle.
It's the only thing I ever roll natural 20s on.
It's true. It's pretty funny. Next up, her partner in crime and in life, Pat McGovern. Welcome back. Tell us about Kieran.
Thank you. Yeah. So my one and only character is Kieran, a human ranger, kind of also playing to type, spending time out in the woods with the animals. But yeah, started playing, basically to echo what Ted said, as a quarantine thing. Cori and I had been talking about it previously, thinking about it. And I knew that obviously you guys and Dylan and everybody had been running a campaign for a while. I was like, oh, that'd be fun. And we were supposed to go out to New York in April. And then that didn't happen. And we're like, well, I still want Cori to meet everybody. So like, hey, what if we maybe did this D&D thing? And we've been doing it ever since.
And what a wonderful way to meet Cori. Welcome to the gang. Lastly, welcome Andre for the first time, one of our Out of the Abyssers, part of the Crazy Eights, as we call ourselves. Tell us about Nihilus and your time playing D&D thus far.
So my character is Nihilus Maul, and he is a Earth Genasi Ranger, larger than life. Chaotic neutral though, so gotta share that for all that means. But yeah, I've been playing with you guys and Out of the Abyss for most of the pandemic now, since quarantine started. Just like Matt, I also was involved in those 2 one-shot campaigns that he previously mentioned. So yeah, I've been really enjoying my time playing D&D with you guys.
And do tell us, where did you come up with the name Nihilus Maul?
Nihilus Maul comes from 2 of my favorite Star Wars Sith Lords, Darth Nihilus and Darth Maul, and I decided to mix them together and see what we could make happen with that.
It's worked out swimmingly.
That's right.
All right, everybody, let's get this party started. Get yourself your D20. Thank you, Alexander Stein, for convincing me to gamify. All right, I rolled very high. I got a 19. I'm going to answer all the questions first. Loose with the nat 20.
20.
Nat 1, baby. I'm just going to sit here and not talk.
19.
19.
Yeah, lowly 3.
Oh, Pat.
Where's my modifier
That
now?
looks like a 12.
What's my dex? What's my mod?
What'd you get, Cori?
I have an 18.
Nice.
Keeping with my my newfound tradition of rolling really low with my character Timbus, I rolled a nice big fat 4.
So first question is going to go to Lucy. What took you so long? Kidding.
Oh, boy.
What was your biggest apprehension to playing? You mentioned the worrying about the nerds picking on you.
There is a big stigma around starting something like D&D, a lot of these kind of RPGs, that first of all, that if you tell anybody that you're playing it, then people are going to laugh at you, which is absolutely the opposite. Because now that I tell people that I play, everybody I talk to is like, you do? I do too. Like everybody plays, but nobody talks about it. Nobody talks about the fact that they play.
It's our little secret.
It's like a little secret club. And it always felt super complicated. Like it always felt that there was so much, like I couldn't possibly learn all the rules and I couldn't possibly get involved in a way that was like to my schedule and also to, be able to devote as much time as I felt that needed to get going, which now I know is not the case at all. So after starting with you DMing for us when we first learned playing Fandelvar, it was very clear right at the beginning. It's like, oh, I don't need to learn all the rules. I have these pieces of paper in front of me and it's just math. Like, that's totally approachable. And then the other biggest thing that drew me to want to play is the creativity aspect. You know, being a professional performer, it's nice to be able to like, hey, it's really cool to build another character and be somebody else for a while and kind of continue down that road that I kind of know what I'm doing in that sometimes kind of know what I'm doing in that world. So yeah, so it just feels like a nice sort of mush of all together, but it felt like it was a big hurdle to jump in.
And you, like a crazy person, are actually playing 2 characters in our game.
I am. When we first started Out of the Abyss, we started with a one-shot that Ted was running for his very first DMing session. And Matt's lovely wife, Emily, was with us for one session, and she was the only healer. And then she got crazy busy with work and was like, I can't do Zoom anymore. It's too much Zoom for one lifetime. So we were like, all right, I'll take on the healer as well. Why not? So I've been doing double duty as a fighter and the healer for a stretch, which is challenging because I have to remember, like, okay, am I rolling first, or who am I rolling for? Who's asking this question? When I'm rolling initiative, like, I'm doing my best, not like I make sure, like, okay, this one is Avari, and okay, this one is Therak, and I take the goods and the bads. So it's a challenge. It's definitely a challenge.
Andre, same question to you. You had the 2 one-shots in your past, but what, aside from quarantine, what other hindrances were keeping you from just taking that next step and being like, all right, I'm going to join a game. I'm going to try this?
I would like to reiterate the time commitment that Lucy talked about, because I mean, it is a pretty big time commitment, and I'm usually relatively busy had it not been for quarantine. So that, and also finding a group of like-minded people to play with. Yeah, I mean, also like Lucy said, the more that you talk about it, the more you realize, oh wow, I know a lot of people who play this and really enjoy it, and it's a lot of fun.
Same question too. Cori, you joined us for, funnily enough, the same one shot that Matt and Andre did, because Ted asked me to backseat DM for him for his first go around, and I ended up really enjoying it. And I was like, let's do this. And then that got us on the road of just doing these kind of one-shot adventures with our little Scooby-Doo type group. But what kept you from pursuing it prior to quarantine?
I think a big part of why I didn't find or try to find a group was finding somebody or a group of people that you can vibe with well enough to be comfortable enough to role play and do this kind of, really nerdy, really creative thinking. You kind of have to be in it. And that, I think that takes like a lot of trust. And especially for somebody like me, like I don't like to put myself out there like that very often. And, I don't have a whole lot of friends, or I didn't have a whole lot of friends that would do this kind of stuff. And I didn't like the idea of trying to do like Roll20 or find something online with strangers, because you hear all these horror stories, and I didn't want to try that. So when, quarantine hit and Pat was like, I've got some friends in New York, maybe we can try to do this on Zoom. I was like, that's perfect. It's people, I didn't know at the time, but he knew, and we were able to kind of go from there. And I'm kind of the opposite, it seems, from a couple of people here as far as like nerdy stuff. I'm really open about it. Like, I'm really open. Like, I will tell like my engineering boss at work that I'm about to go play D&D, and he's like, what? And I'm like, yeah, it's so much fun. I'm an elf. And he's like, you're an elf? So I have no shame when it comes to stuff like that, but it's still, I think, hard to find people that I would invite into that sphere.
And we live in a small town in Indiana, for context.
Yes.
That's very true too. But I'm surprised that an engineer would not at least have in a sphere of other people playing D&D to be like, oh yes, I've heard of that. Next, Matt, what you had the 2 one-shots like Andre, but was it time for you too? Was that your biggest hindrance?
Yeah, and before 2020, I wasn't big in the online webcam world. I didn't know that people really hung out like this a lot, but now this is the only way I hang out with anybody. Now I find myself always wanting to be with our group in person, but it's really neat to have a group that's kind of all across the country, and we can all play together in different time zones and see each other even when we're not together. But yeah, that's been the main thing was finding a group of people that I really liked and wanted to play with. And I'm really happy with the group that we have.
No, you're stuck with us, so you better.
Every other Monday until the end of time.
Pretty much. Until we can do it in person. Which I can't wait to drive to Philly and for you to fly to Philly and to
we're
sit
driving.
in their basement. Speaking of Ted's basement, Ted!
Yes, I am playing D&D in my basement, our basement. I think there's two reasons why I didn't really get involved earlier. One, I grew up in a very religious household in the 80s and 90s. And any sort of thing my brother and I got away with some stuff, like some video games. We had some games that were obviously influenced by Dungeons and Dragons that we played that I didn't necessarily make the connection at the time. But anything that like had a devil or a demon on it was taboo. Like we could not have that. It was not allowed. That was like, there was still the discussion around it of it being this thing, like the stigma of it. Also the time like that the Satanic Panic era. I think the era where I was kind of, my brother and I were playing these games together, and it was really interesting because I showed you guys this, but I went home recently and I got all these miniatures. Like I have all these miniatures that I collected over the years. I had no idea these were D&D miniatures, but I have like 20 of them. And now I'm stoked because I have all these things and I know what they are. But my brother and I were making our own games. And if we would have known that D&D was a thing and how to do it, we would have just played that. But we never made the connection. And I think the other part of it, I think also was like Lucy said, the other nerds are going to make fun of me kind of thing. The people that we were around, like rural Pennsylvania growing up, the people that we were around who were into D&D did not make it very accessible. I think, and as much as I've come to learn and embrace this culture and the people that are involved in the community and really kind of get something out of it and embrace it, I think the culture surrounding it changed, where it was more just, and I'm not speaking ill of anyone, but it did seem like it was more like angry nerds who did not want you to play their game. So it was like, okay, no, that's not for me. That's a thing. It's like my religious household saying like, this is not a thing, and then not having an access point to it. So I just said, okay, that's not for me. And then it just clicked, and it was like, oh, where was this all of my life? If I would have discovered this back then, I would have been playing this game the whole time. But it just, again, thanks to my wife who had been saying like, yeah, we should do this. This is a thing. And me saying, yeah. And me saying, no, I don't want to do this. Too many books. You got to get books and figures and all that stuff. And no, it's too much.
And you've just admitted that you are the rabbit. So I think you were probably right on the money to be like, maybe I shouldn't.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Maybe I shouldn't have that slice of cake. I'm going to have the whole cake.
Ted started using an external camera and a map, I think before I'd even shown you that I did it. Like you just did it on your own. And I was like, yes, go for it. I have tips if you'd like. And you're like, oh, okay.
You talked about it. You mentioned it, but it wasn't until you invited me into that other game, and then I saw how you do it. Because you talked about the dry erase mat with the Lego figures, which is genius. And then I started looking up dry erase mats. I actually tried to make my own dry erase mat, and it was such a disaster that I just
did not go well.
He's laminating all this paper rather than just buying a map on Amazon. It was like, come
paper
on,
and packing tape. It did not work.
Yeah, I gave up and just bought it.
You're a ridiculous man, Theodore. I love you. Next, Pat. You're a gamer. You're a gamer and you're a Warhammer guy. What took you so long?
Not Warhammer.
Oh, my bad.
It's an odd question of how it took so long. I think a lot of it was the stigma and the finding the right group of people. So I mean, as a kid, I read the Forgotten Realms books, like the R.A. Salvatore, Drizzt Do'Urden books were like some of my favorites as a kid. And I never really connected that was like, there was D&D, but I didn't know about it. I didn't have friends that did it. And then, yeah, like you said, I've played plenty of, video game RPGs that are based on various D&D rule sets, adaptations, all that stuff. And again, I was just like, yeah, the tabletop stuff it almost seemed to bridge too far. Like it was like just outside of like what people were publicly saying was acceptable.
I can play video games in my room. I don't know if I want to play with other people.
Right? Like this is something I do where no one can see me. And then, I mean, with the Slayers group starting, Dylan and all my friends who are not traditionally gamers in any sense, like getting into it, really enjoying it. I was like, okay, like maybe I can do that. And I remember talking with Dylan at a wedding we were at a couple summers ago. And I was like, yeah, it'd be great. But I didn't know you could do it online. I was like, you guys all get together in somebody's apartment and play. And I was like, well, I don't live in New York, so sorry. And then right at the start of not even the start of the pandemic, in January, I think I started getting into like tabletop games. So like Warhammer, just other stuff, Battletech and Armada, and going into the game store in town here and being put off by people. Like you walk in, and I was there last night, and I walked in and everyone just kind of turns and looks at you and they're like, oh, a human walked in. I was like, hey guys, like, what's up? And so like there was, one of Cori's coworkers got me kind of introduced to the tabletop world, and I play with them, and I'd hear the tables next to us start doing D&D or Pathfinder or some other stuff. And I was like, okay, maybe, but still got to find the people that really vibe with. And then, quarantine hit, and we're like, all right, cool. Now you guys went online. We can get with my friends and play this online and try it out.
We had never played it online before, so your group was as much guinea pigs as Slayers was, and as much as Ted and Lucy were, and as much as like we're all learning this as we go. And that's something that I've really enjoyed about doing this show, especially with people who played for 20 years and now you guys who played for 20 minutes. They, I'll never go digital. I'm pen and pencil, pen and paper, blah, blah, blah. And just because it's like, I mean, I've only done D&D Beyond because I don't want to do pen and paper. That sounds like a lot of work. Okay, last. We got to you, Jen. It's your time to shine. You've had plenty of time to think about it.
I did it.
What took you so long to play D&D?
A similar upbringing to Ted, and was brought up in a religious household. And I don't think it was forbidden or being kept from me, but more if anyone in my sphere was playing it, they weren't talking about it. And so I think a lot of my introduction to just its existence was through media. And I was actually remembering listening to, back when I was a kid, the Focus on the Family radio drama Adventures in Odyssey, where they had a 2-part episode where a character comes to town and teaches their cousin castles and cauldrons. And of course, like it ends with him like trying to do like a blood pact for Satan.
Oh,
because that is true. Like we have won. Yeah,
So
we
now
have
it's
won
progression.
D&D when we do a blood pact for Satan. So I'm just like really excited for when I get there.
Sorry,
so
players, we haven't won D&D yet.
we
I'm
haven't
sorry.
won. So yeah, I just had like a very strange frame of reference / like didn't even really know what it was. And then I would echo what so many people have said is time commitment. And so when I first started trying to get a group of people together, I was like, yeah, let's do it every week. We're going to do it. And so it just didn't take root. And so I thought, oh man, that's a bummer, but like, oh, well, I guess that's how it is. And then the pandemic happened.
And now everybody's got
for
all the
me.
time in the world.
Truly. And so, I mean, certainly once it's over, I imagine some playing less will become more common, but
Yeah.
it's like, I'm excited to have the foundation now. So now I know
It is
can be
nice to
continue.
have something on the calendar.
Yeah,
That's
it's
for
truly
sure.
the only thing on my calendar is like my games.
Mhm.
That's it. So every week, that's
I
what
have a
I'm
little
looking
dry
forward
erase
to.
calendar on the side of our fridge that in the before times we would use for meal prep, because we would prep our lunches for work and then we would make dinner. And now it's just Crazy Eights Monday, Then the next week is Coder Boys on Wednesdays, Thursday Session Zero, Fridays Chaos Kids, Saturday Slayers. That's all it says. So we can keep track of which games are happening when. Put out the D20. Time for another question. And I rolled a 19 again. I'm doing very well.
Oh, it's cocked.
18.
18 for Jen. She's at the top.
3
Ele-
again.
3 for Pat. Consistent.
11 with the
for the
blue
loose.
swirly.
17.
That's a pretty one.
This one was
Oh.
actually a free gift with another set, which was really nice. It's got little
Very
stars.
pretty.
It's really pretty.
I like it.
7.
5.
First question's going up. Jen. Ooh.
This is like a snake draft.
Last up, first up. What surprised you most about the first time you played D&D?
I think how easy it was. And I will credit two things with that also kind of bleed into some other questions you're potentially asking. One is that I've actually been playing a different role-playing system since March called Exalted. And so I feel like that we started with a baby campaign there because that was back when we were like, this is going to be a month and a half, 2 tops. And then once we realized we made plans to sort of wrap that up and start something new that could go longer. And so that, I would say that was really the campaign that was trial and error for me, where it was like, I don't know what I'm doing and I'm messing it up all the time. And I'm maybe not like putting my whole self into it because I'm nervous about doing. And so I think I'd gotten like all of that out of the way. So when I finally started playing D&D, I was like, oh yeah, in it to win it. And then I would also say, I have also gone down the rabbit hole with media. And so just watching and listening to other people play has really, I think, given me agency. And so I know it's like, oh, I don't have to wait for anyone to give me permission. Like, I want to do an insight check on this room. And here's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for trap doors. I'm looking for books that are hiding things. And I don't know if I would have felt that empowered if I hadn't spent a ton of the pandemic watching or listening to other people do the exact same thing.
That is a very good point.
So
Very, very good point. It's the media that I've consumed that has given me the confidence, like you said, to know how the mechanics work of the game. Because when I first started, it was just like, I mean, I don't know, what can I do? And now it's just like, well, DM Ted, I'm going to do this. Is that allowed? And he's like, shit, you can fly now. I guess. Bird people, the best.
Yeah, for you.
Yeah, for me, for sure. Andre.
One of the things that I realized really quick was how kind of limitless everything is. I mean, I feel like there's a stigma about the game that like, oh, it has all these rules and like you have to kind of go by the book, so to speak. But it's kind of, you know, there's no limits really. Like if you want to do something, if you want to go set something on fire over there, you totally can. You know, I mean, depending on how well you roll. But that's been one of my
You
favorite
might just
things
set
to do.
yourself on fire, as Andre knows
Exactly.
from our one shot.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, realizing how truly limitless the game is, and it's all up to your imagination, which is incredible.
Same question to Lucy.
The first time we played, I actually found it both liberating and terrifying because it was like, I get to be this other person. This is really cool. And I, took time to look over the sheet and like read all the things and try to learn about this character and what we were doing. And then once you started rolling, it's like, okay, now what do I do? What do I roll? What do I add to it? Like, okay, and then getting into the nitty gritty of mechanics wasn't quite as daunting as I thought it would be, but it definitely helped having other people who were brand new and a sympathetic DM, Lincoln, who also knows how to like shepherd new people along and like, without it being, some comic book guy from The Simpsons being like, no, you can't do that because like, and Ted has said before, reading the books and writing some things that it even says in the books, like, this is what we've put out. If you want to change something, take what you like and don't do what you don't want to do. Like, that's fine. Like, make it your own. And that I think has been the coolest part, is that it is limitless, as Andre said.
Ted.
Everybody else rolled that terribly that my 7 is up that fast. Okay. The thing that I wasn't necessarily expecting the role-playing aspect of the role-playing game.
But what?
Yeah, I thought like role-playing game, like, okay, I played tons of role-playing game, like video games, played a bunch of Warcraft. I have all kinds of role-playing games that I've played over the years. like, yeah, I know what a role-playing game is. And then when we started playing and it's like, okay, well, what do you want to do? And it's like, oh, well, I want to just charge at this thing and take a big old swing at it. And it was incredibly liberating to become something else and become someone else. And I wasn't expecting that part of it. I wasn't expecting the role-playing in the role-playing game. I didn't really know what it meant. I thought you have a thing and you control it, but to actually become something else is a whole other thing. In a way that, like, I mean, I've said it before, it feels like what you get from acting or theater or something, and it makes sense that there's a lot of crossover in artists in that way.
Cori, what surprised you about our first game?
I think what surprised me the most was how much I really don't understand what the dice names are, or roll a D10. Like, okay, great. Which one's the D10? And
carousel.
Yeah. And then it's like, add this modifier. And you're like, wait, which modifier where? That was like how hard that was for me to figure out, even with, D&D Beyond. That was kind of surprising. Because like Jen said, I'd listened to and watched some other people play, and I kind of had a pretty good idea of what I was getting into, and I was really excited for it. But the actual mechanics it was hard to stay in. Like, oh, I'm rolling for combat, but also like, wait, what am I adding from where, how much? That got a little bit overwhelming. And just like having the bravery to start speaking in character was really hard for me. Like, that was a really tough step to take. And I mean, I'm not a self-conscious or shy person, but just being able to be like, I'm in this character and this is what this character would do and speak as her was a really difficult thing. And it's still hard not to be like, all right, well, Nocturna's going to go do this and this, rather than being like, I'm going to go do this and this. That was a little surprising.
The nice thing about that is that's flavor. You can choose to do third person or first person, however you do it. Yeah. And I mean, I've been a performer since I was in a church play when I was 10, and I still get self-conscious to speak in character. When I first started playing as crew, Aarakocra, they speak in like chirps and clicks because they're bird people. So like I was doing this thing with crew every time I would talk, and I eventually just abandoned it because I was like, I hate this. This is dumb. I don't care if it's what Aarakocra do. Not crew. Crew's not doing it. I'm over it. But yeah, it's especially over Zoom, not in the same room with somebody, to be like, even like you're sitting next to Pat. So if you feel, weird, you can always reach over and grab onto him or whatever, but you don't have that energy in the room. And let me tell you, since you guys haven't played with us in the room, it's way better. It's so much more fun. Not that our game isn't fun, but it's so fun in the room. The energy is just, it's electric. Next is Matt.
I really relate with what Ted said. Coming into it, even when Andre and I had played in the past, I mean, it was more so like our friends were like, hey, do you want to like make a character and do all this? And so we did, but coming into D&D and actually jumping into it like we've done this year, I guess I wasn't quite expecting how much it takes or how much you have to put into it. It's not just like a video game where you're like, I have a character and he has these skills and I'll get better skills and then I'll use those skills to have a better attack or to be faster. And yeah, that's a big part of it. But at least in our game, I've found that it's more so about the personality of these characters and the situations you get in. And I think on our first game, I had a little bit of that self-conscious thing, not of like, oh, I'm playing D&D and I feel weird about it, but my friends invited me to do this cool thing, and I don't know if I necessarily want to be like, well, I want to just fuck everything up. I want to go and rip down this wall here and see what happens. Because I'm in my head, I'm thinking like, well, did the DM plan for this? I'm always thinking, what is the DM, or I was always thinking, what does the DM want us to do? Or what do my friends want to do? And I don't want to get in the way of that. But the more you play and the more you get comfortable with the fact that, like, if you have a group where we're all gonna go in and become these characters for these next few hours, it's a lot of fun. It's really freeing to have that, to where I have a character that can't read, and it's funny when like these little goofy things will happen and you're like, yeah, it's canon now, and now that is what it is, and then you can build off of it. And when you play, when you've had a couple dozen sessions, It's so funny to call back to something that was months ago in human time, and it may be, last week in the game. But it's just funny to really build a world that you kind of build with your friends, and you can do whatever you want, and it's really fun.
I think that is especially so playing digitally, because again, when you're in the room, you can kind of get the feel of like, it feels like we're gonna do a thing, and you're like, well, I'm gonna charge in and do it. If you're over Zoom, somebody might be over here on their phone, like, yeah, we're gonna charge in there. They're checking their email on the other screen. It's just like you don't know. And for me, with the game with you guys, I had to be very cautious that I wasn't doing too much, because I'm trying to show you the mechanics of the game as well, and I'm helping Ted run things, and I don't want to be like, nope, you're doing it wrong. Nope, you're doing it wrong. But at the same time, I want to play too, and I originally was gonna bow out of their game and like have them write me out or sacrifice myself nobly, but I ended up having so much fun playing with you guys that I was like, can I keep coming back, please? And
I'm so glad you did.
It's tricky to play online like this, so kudos to all of you for sticking with it, especially being babies to the game.
Well, I don't think any of us know any other way. Like, this is the only way that we've done it.
I know.
Is over Zoom. So, or
crazy.
Lucy and I, we did a Roll20 game, but that was still over Zoom.
A couple of Roll20s, but they were over Zoom because it's Roll20, and it doesn't matter where you are. And the people we were playing with play over Zoom all the time. That's like that was their normal anyway.
Yeah,
that's great.
So never actually played a game in a room with other people.
One day.
One day.
It's gonna happen. Lastly, Pat, we got to you.
Like Cori said, trying to figure out what a D8 is and which one that is, because I need that for all my attacks. And
Diamond.
You're looking for the 8, and you're like, this one goes up to 6. No. Kind of a couple surprising things. So first of all, how long we play for in a single session. I kind of wasn't really prepared for that. I had seen some of the like live plays, like podcasts and stuff where they're doing like 3 to 4 hours. Like, yeah, but that's their job. It's an episode. I was like, all right, so we'll play for an hour or two, and then, we'll be done. And then it's like, no, I'm jumping right into 4 hours, if not longer. And so that was unexpected. I mean, it's awesome. And we like keep going for most of it, until it gets to like 1 a.m. And then we're like, all right, we go to bed 3 hours ago. And then beyond that, for the first session, how terrible all of our characters were at doing anything. I played a ranger, and I wanted to follow a trail in the woods, and I rolled, and it was terrible. And so it's like, yeah, you take a step into the woods and you're lost. I was like, but my backstory, I'm like, I've been living in the mountains for 20 years, and I know this stuff. How am I so bad at this? And obviously that's like, the meme of level 1 characters, but there was like, oh yeah, we're adventurers, but we're really not that good at what we're doing. Not yet.
Yeah, it's always fun to start level 1, because it's just like, I'm fucking bad at everything. This sucks. On New Year's Day, I did like a very D&D light thing with my in-laws, where I just rolled a D20. They were all themselves, but I gave them like classes. So Rachel's a sorcerer. Her brother's a rogue because he makes knives, because of course he does. Her father got a guitar for Christmas, so he's a bard, of course. And her mom's a nurse, so she's a cleric. And my father-in-law was getting really pissed because he kept trying to do like bardic magic, but I kept rolling really badly. And he's like, this is bullshit. I'm supposed to be good at this stuff. And I'm like, I know, I'm sorry. It's just the dice. Rachel's like, just fudge some dice rolls. I'm like, all right, fine. You stab him in the face. Good job. All right, next question. We're going to keep this one quick so we can get one more in before we're done. But let's roll one more time.
Same again. We got
11 for the
legs.
loose.
10.
Andre.
Ooh, yeah, I like that.
Also a 10.
Uh-oh.
Who's got the
Pat.
higher dex?
Is that a roll off?
Oh, yes, go for it.
Let's roll off.
Ugh, 12.
4.
Ha! She wins.
11.
Ooh, Matt. 2. Cori. You're muted, but I can read lips. 10.
11.
Oh,
All right.
three-way
Uh-oh.
roll off.
The
Pat,
three of us.
Pat and Ted and Lucy.
17.
12.
7.
Okay. Guys, high roll 11. Good job.
Woo!
We're going to start with Lucy again. What is your favorite thing about your current character in your current game?
For Zavari, the cleric, I multi-classed her, so she's 5 levels of cleric and 1 level of bard because her dexterity is so low. I couldn't multi-class her as a cleric, as a rogue. I really tried, wasn't gonna happen because she's the kind of cleric who will be like giving some, like we at one point in this lake in the Underdark, we came upon this boat with like dead bodies in it, and she was doing the nice thing of like giving them their last rites for her, her dying ritual, whatever. But at the same time, it's like going through their pockets and seeing what they had and if they had anything worth hanging on to. So the fact that Zavari's kind of a little shit is pretty fun. And Therak, she's very much like the strong silent type, this half-orc martial background fighter who wields a massive axe and kind of hits first and asks questions later. But she's really good at card games. That she's like, we have one session where she did play cards against somebody in a tavern and just totally whooped their ass. And it was just so satisfying to be like, she's really good at cards. She knows how to bluff. This is fun. They're good times.
I always want to pull out those skills from your sheet and be like, oh, I am good at this.
Totally. Sleight of hand and good with deck of cards. I was like, yes, this is my game.
Nailed it. Pat, what do you love about Kieran and what do you love about playing with me? JK, what do you love about her?
Funnily enough, one of the things that I've enjoyed about Kieran is something that comes out because of poor dice rolls, like not conscious decisions on my part, because Kieran personality and professional wise isn't that different from me. So I haven't really gone down the role play rabbit hole too hard yet. But in combat, there's been a recurring issue where he will attempt to shoot something in the vicinity of our warlock, Matt, and inevitably roll a natural 1 and shoot Matt instead. It happened. I tried to throw something with an offhand weapon, like I did a melee attack and then like threw my offhand at a second enemy and it hit Matt. And then he was stuck in a cube and I shot the cube, but I hit him instead. And it's just like a recurring thing. And then along those lines in the greater campaign that we have going on is that, Rachel's character inevitably gets covered in gore and some other mucus fluid, whatever, of something that we kill or break nearby. She inevitably just gets drenched to the point where she had to buy a poncho when we were in town last time.
I love an aspect of your character that he's afraid of fire. In his backstory, he was your village was attacked, your family was attacked by orcs.
Yeah, his hut was burned down during an orc raid, so fire scars and stuff, and then afraid of fire. But of course, being a human, can't see in the dark. So when we go into it's dark, there's usually a torch that I should be near, but don't want to be.
Fire bad. Ted, first, what's your favorite thing about being a DM?
Ooh.
Then your favorite thing about old Timbus time.
Favorite thing about being a DM, I honestly relate to it so much because I feel like it's what I do for a living. As I make music with people, and I really what I do is I like setting the table for people and letting other people kind of be as creative as they can and sort of stoking that and encouraging that, and then me feeding inspiration off other people, and it really just that sort of freestyle communication, improvisation, creativity kind of flow. I mean, it is almost like I think Matt, I think you even said at one point we were texting and you said like, yeah, it's like jazz or something, or you're like bad D&D is like bad jazz. It's something like that, which I just love. But it is very much like that improv theater or something, and it's like, okay, I have an idea for you. Like I think like I know how you guys are creative, so here's an idea for you to try and for you to do, and then I can feed off that and kind of go. And that I think is it's just fun kind of setting the scene like that, or setting the table, and then it's like making a big meal, setting the table and then having everyone down to sit and enjoy the meal together.
And then the meal tries to eat them back.
Yeah, of course, naturally.
Because obviously it's a mimic.
Yeah, or everyone fails a Constitution save and they're all poisoned.
Thanks, Salmonella.
Yeah, and the old Timbus, which I still have his figure right here in front of me. Little Timbus. He is. I kind of made him this kind of bumbling, kind of Radagast type, where he's just kind of he gets along with animals better than he gets along with other humanoids. He doesn't really know why he is where he is. He's just kind of there. And then he has this staff, and he collects shiny things, and he hangs them on his shiny things like a charm bracelet or something. And then he just does stupid stuff like conjure a whole bunch of owls to set off all the traps. And
he used owls as meat shields, and he's a druid.
Because we couldn't figure out the puzzle. So I was like, all right, owls, all of them. There you go. It's just silly, which I like. He's just a silly creature. So it's just fun.
I do love Timbus. And unfortunately, Timbus ends up in the wrong place at the wrong time all the time and just gets walloped. And I feel bad. Because you're the new player in my game, but you're the one who walks up and looks at stuff. And I'm like, well, the thing blew up in your face. And everybody else is in the back because they're afraid of me now.
Yeah. It's like the last session, like everyone goes down these tunnels and there's these portcullises and they're obviously going to fall and trap everyone in. And I'm like, okay, well, I'll go down the middle one. And now I'm in the middle where all the bad stuff is going to happen.
Yep.
And you guys are all, and it's like, all right, okay, fine. That's how it is.
That's how it's going to be.
Yeah.
Jenn, to you, what's your favorite thing about your current character in your current game?
Yeah, so I'm still so new to Callista about her, which is fun. She is pretty young, and so I like that I get to play her as kind of a scamp, kind of reckless, making the decisions that I, Jenn, would not make on a day-to-day. And it's a group of 4 people playing, all improvisers, and we have 3 characters that are teens and then 1 middle-aged man. So we just like character as a middle-aged man. And so we just joke all the time that it's a Disney Channel original series. And we are just trying to annoy his character as much as possible. Because there's this running gag now that we don't really know a lot about his life. And so there's just a running gag now that we're like, oh, you know how to sail, right? Oh, you know how to pick locks, right? Anything we might need to do, we're like, Matthias, you know how to do that, right?
I don't know everything, you damn kids. Now get off my porch.
Yeah, you can't get rid of us though. We can't get off the lawn because we're all together. And yeah, I would say in the game, because there's just high spoof time, just lots of absurd shenanigans all the time. And I like that. I know it differs from game to game, right? The tone is going to change depending on who you're playing with and what your DM's trying to do. But I really enjoy having a playground where I know we can do really stupid stuff. Just try to keep one-ing up each other because this is our stage now. And that's really fun. And then that's how you get Spartans have Cockney accents. Which is canon.
I love that. Andre.
I'm going to say 2 favorite things about Nihilus, very briefly.
Breaking the law.
First favorite thing is his chaotic neutral nature. And as a player, also settling into what that means as playing the character. That's been really fun to discover as a newbie. Also, my favorite thing about him is finding his new weapon of choice, Dawnbringer, in our current campaign that we're playing, being a sentient, pretty much lightsaber, which is very fitting for the name. So that's been really cool. Favorite thing about the game that we're running right now, I would say probably the constant adventure. And I mean, I know that goes without being said because it's D&D, come on. But constant adventure that we're always finding, because it always seems that when we come to a stopping point every session, that something entirely new has happened and we're like, what the fuck? How did that happen? Or, what did we just experience? So that's been a really cool thing.
And I got to give mad props to Ted on that, because it never feels manufactured. It's always just and even the one time that we almost went into the tower and you're like, they'll never go into the tower. And then we're being bombarded by these demonic forces, and he's like, what are they doing? And we're like, what are we doing? Let's get out of here. And he's like,
But
yes,
seriously, what were we
leave.
doing? Why were we doing that?
Why?
There was no
would we do
reason.
that?
Why?
Yeah,
But that's just our own buffoonery.
exactly.
Cori.
So I feel like one of my favorite things is probably maybe one of your least favorite things is how often I'm just like, you know what? I'm either going to talk to a bunch of animals and get them on our side, or I'm going to summon a bunch of animals. And there's always a sigh of like, how many? And I'm just like 5 or, 15 or whatever it is. And like,
Well,
it's
then I gotta
just,
whip this bad boy out.
yeah.
And I gotta
And
find,
find-
all right, here's a rhino, here's a platypus.
Yeah. Find the most appropriate figurine for whatever I've summoned this time. But I don't know. I just like, especially with Nocturna, she is just like, she really, really doesn't care what other people think at all. Like, she's just like, I want to do this. I'm going to go do this. And, a lot of times we're fighting monsters and she's sitting there like, but we could have made these monsters our friend, which is how she ended up with a basilisk friend who just kind of hangs out with her. And his name is Cyclops and he is wonderful. That's probably my favorite thing. It's like, you really never know like what you're going to end up with her at the end of the day. It's like, oh, you found a stray basilisk baby and you're going to, oh, okay. And then a pirate made him goggles. All right. Well, I guess that happened. So it's just, it's fun.
Wait. A pirate
Session
made
2.
your basilisk
He has
goggles?
goggles?
Has goggles. It's
Wait.
an action to take them on or off though. So
Oh, that's
Gotta
really
use it.
smart.
That's
Because
so
here's the thing.
cute.
Basilisks, when they look at you, you become petrified. I didn't
Oh.
want her walking around with a loaded gun all the time.
yeah.
So one of the guys on the ship was like, hey, I made these, and now Cyclops has these goggles that he can wear and not petrify everybody.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh,
He's
I
this
love
fairy god
that.
pirate.
Fairy god pirate.
Does
That's
Cyclops
incredible.
does he have one eye? Is he an
No,
actual
he has
Cyclops?
like 8.
Oh yeah, he's the basilisk hatchling from.
Oh, but you named him Cyclops like X.
Because of the piercing glare.
The visor. That's so
Mhm.
good.
Yeah.
Very
Very
good.
This
One of my
was
favorite
that
things
that
that
was
Nocturna has done is we did this adventure where at the end they find this druid who's been corrupted by this dark magic in the forest, and there's like text on text of role playing to do, and Nocturna's like, "Fuck you, bitch!" Boom. And I was like, "Hey, let's roll initiative. I'll just put this away."
Well, and then I stole her eye.
carved out.
She's
her eye.
she's collecting eyeballs now, which is
Wow.
really great.
Mhm.
I like.
She's got a
Nocturna.
collection of evil eyes now, so that's a thing.
Yeah. That tracks.
Yep,
It's
yep.
happening.
Last but not least, Matthew. Olmaris is a goddamn delight. What do you love about him?
What's not to love? I love his mustache. He's got a big mustache that is very symbolic of whatever he's going through at the time.
Do you
I
have
love
it
that.
handy?
I don't. I never have it.
I was in the wrong
Only
room.
every other Monday. I don't want to wear it out. But I love his mustache. I love that he's just wearing underwear. He has no armor at all, but he has this giant badass axe that's on fire, and it's called Lizard Ripper, Blade of Fire. I love that he wants to take care of this small little mushroom creature that we found, and I don't know why. He became my child. I adopted him, and it became a character trait. I love that he can't read. I'm playing to my type. I can't read, but yeah, I love it. I love playing him. I think he's great. I kind of let him take over, and I enjoy that. And then my favorite thing about the game that we're playing that he is involved with, I love it. Again, I love everything about it. What's not to love? But my favorite thing, it's kind of metagaming here, but I think Ted's a great DM. I love his approach. Kind of piggybacking on what I said earlier about I know Ted spent a lot of time putting this together and I don't want to fuck it up. But I love that we'll go through a couple weeks worth of gameplay and it'll be like, oh yeah, this one giant says he's seen you before in the Library of Secrets or whatever. And then the next week we're just like, I don't give a fuck about what that was. I'm just going to go get this axe. And Ted's pretty great about just rolling with the punches. And he's also like, we have so much life that happens in this game that every week we have to be like, all right, so what's happening? Like there's so much adventure, and every door is open. I think there's only been like one time where Ted like wasn't prepared. Not, I mean, he was prepared, but he was like, you're like level 6, you're trying to go into something that's like level just 20, and it's gonna fuck you up, and it did. And then we were like, okay, I guess that was probably the wrong move. But most of the time, we always find a way, and I love it. I think it's such a fun thing. I think Ted's great. I think everybody playing our game is great. And I think Bolmeris is a great character. Whoever came up with Bolmeris is fantastic creative.
Jesus. Yeah.
You're a great sport about it all. I mean, there's times where like I'll sit there and think, I'll be like, which idea sounds like something Ted spent the most time on? I'll be like, that was the most like difficult thing at the beginning. You're just like, I don't want to be the one to come up with the bad idea where everybody's like, well, that's boring. Well, while there was this other exciting thing we could have done, but pretty much everything has been exciting. There hasn't been a lull. I mean, it's funny. There'll be some weeks where for 3 hours we just like walk around at like a bazaar, and we'll get items and talk about goofy shit, and that's it. And that was the game. But it's moments like that where I think it enriches the story and makes it does more world building than doing normal world building can do sometimes.
There are times as a DM that I forget about that kind of stuff. I forget that you need to have your campfire moments, or you need to have your shopping montages, because I'm like, story beat, story beat, story beat, story beat. And then I'm like, oh yeah, we need to stop and have brunch, because then brunch is fun. And then we can have new fun NPCs that maybe will come back at some point, and all kinds of silly stuff. So yeah.
I am always fighting for a shopping montage. Always.
Nice. All right, folks. Last question. What is the number one tip that you would give a new player, or Ted, since I'm starting with you, a new DM?
Don't worry about learning everything. Like, you have a sheet. Like, I still have this little sheet here from like the very first game that we played. I just have it as a reference. Like, you don't memorize all this. You don't have to. It's a reference. Like, it's there. The DM, if you have a DM who's willing to help teach you as you work, they'll help you through it. But don't be intimidated by it. The entry point is to just ask somebody to play a game. You don't have to read all the books, learn every rule. Just find someone who's willing to help you along.
Lucy.
Don't be afraid to ask questions, because it might answer some, like that old adage, you might answer somebody else's question. And don't be afraid to look like an idiot. Like, allow yourself to be the crazy one dancing on the bar top at the tavern at 2 a.m. or screaming for Sparta when you're kicking somebody in the chest. Like, don't be afraid to look like an idiot. That's where the magic of the game really comes out, is in those moments where like you really find yourself in your character.
Jen.
Yeah, at the end of the day, you're just telling a fun story with your friends. Like, don't worry about everything else. You'll all the rules, and if you're not having fun, then you're not playing with the right people.
Big amen to that. Cori.
I would just second that. Don't be afraid to ask questions, especially like stupid questions. Because like I felt like every question I had for the first couple sessions was like, all right, what do I do in this situation? Can I cast this? Like, what is the like cooldown time? Just simple questions that help the game run faster or just smoother once you get to know how it flows, make a huge difference. So that's probably the best advice I would have.
And in your defense, you were playing with 5 other people who had been playing before, and you and Pat were alone in Indiana going, are we doing this right? I have no idea.
Yes.
What are they laughing at? I don't get it.
Right.
Matt.
Have fun with all your friends. I think that's the most important thing, because if you try to do something that you can't do, your DM's going to tell you about it. So don't worry about it. Just do what you want to do. You'll figure out the game as you play it more. clear your schedule. You're going to have some time for this one.
Pat.
I'd say, I mean, along the lines of like have fun, ask questions. Don't be afraid to don't be worried that you're taking up too much time. You know, like it's a party game. There's other people, but you know, if you're asking questions, taking too long to do something, like the DM will be like, okay, like we'll just speed this along. Until they do that, don't do it to yourself. And especially I think if you're trying to do something, especially, you know, at level 1, you're like, oh, I want to go look at this skeleton. You like roll and you're like, oh, I failed. That's not your like one action. You can do something after that. You don't like, all right, now I'm going to sit and wait for other 5 people to do their thing. So, because you're not going to learn if you don't try stuff.
Exactly. And Andre.
To a new player, I would say yes, 100%, absolutely. You should play no matter what, because it's a lot of fun. But also in your games, don't be afraid to push the boundary of the game itself, because it challenges the DM creatively and the gameplay creatively and stokes that creative flame for everybody playing.
Ladies and germs, this has been a delight. My face is sore from smiling at all of the wonderful stories. Let's round things out with some plugs. This episode will be dropping February 5th. So what do you got coming up in February, DM Ted?
Not a heck of a lot. However, in the meantime, you can find me on the Instagram at Ted Young Music. I am also on the Facebook at Ted Young, and I don't really kind of mess with those other social media things because they scare me.
Lucy, what do you got coming up?
Well, you can find my OnlyFans. No, I'm just kidding. Also, everyone is muted, so please rest assured everyone is laughing. I am not just saying that into cricket silence.
Can confirm.
I'm an actor, so I ain't got shit on. But you can find me on Instagram at LF Horton. And that's my spot. That's it. This has been fun.
Jen, where can folks find you on the interwebs? And if you got anything happening out there on the West Coast?
Yeah, to plug staying in your house and getting that vaccine. That's what I'd like to plug. Really keeping my fingers crossed that my health problems are gonna put me in an earlier group. What? Otherwise,
Pre-existing conditions.
Oh, comorbidity. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at sassafrasj. Yeah, if you happen to be in the Seattle area and you have found this relic of the past where we all had to stay in our homes, but now you're allowed out of your homes, I'm probably doing improv in the Seattle area. And actually, I will plug for whenever the after times happen. Fancy Cafeteria Musical Improv, Seattle's premier musical improv group. We have not died. We are simply hibernating.
That is phenomenal. My wife used to do musical improv. I enjoy it very much. Cori, where can folks find you if you want to be found?
If you want to find me, you can find me on Instagram. This year, I will be doing a Bake the World where I do a dessert from every country. So you can find me at Everywhere Dessert on Instagram. And that's my project. So I'll be starting with Afghanistan and go from there.
Afghanistan. What are you going to do?
I don't know yet.
Ooh, awesome. I hope you do
it should be fun.
stroopwafels when you get to Belgium. I hope
Yes.
you do stroopwafels.
We'll see.
Pat.
I will be spending my February out on the lovely frozen wasteland of Indiana, conducting field research for our deer study. So not staying home, which is good and bad. But yeah, if anybody's interested in wildlife research and deer, you can follow us on Twitter at Research in Deer, or my own Instagram is Pat G. McGovern, where I post photos of our dogs and Cori's baking and the occasional deer.
Occasional Deer is a good band name. Good band. Andre, where can folks find you and your drumming pursuits?
So if you want to find me on Instagram, it's Andre Black Drums. And aside from that, I'm going to be in the studio doing a bunch of music stuff and staying inside, staying safe, and playing with my dog. That's about it.
Who is adorable. It must be said.
Yeah, Charlie's pretty adorable. He's also got an Instagram, Sir Charles Black. So
that's awesome. And Matt, where can folks find you?
You can find me on Instagram at Matthew McNeal TX. In February, I think I'm gonna be here. Andre's probably gonna come over. He's in my bubble. It's my wife and Andre's wife. That's our bubble. I'm going to probably text Ted tomorrow and see maybe we can come up to Philly in February. We'll just load up the van.
Fantastic. Thank you all for being here. This was really, really, really fun. I love talking to brand new people because I introduced most of you to this game, which is really great for me. My ego, I love it. You can follow me on all the socials at Lincoln L. Hayes. You can follow the show at Session Zero D&D Show. Find more of this fun stuff at my website, lincolnlhayes.com. The show is lincolnlhayes.com/Session Zero. And be sure to follow on the socials, subscribe on YouTube, give me thumbs up, do all the things to help the Matrix to get the show out into the world and hear more wonderful stories like these. And be on the lookout. I got some fun ideas for a tournament, potentially, for season 2, which all of y'all are invited to. You just had to fill out that thing that I sent you in an email. Thank you all for being here. This was a delight. Everybody, stay safe, stay home, and play some D&D. Bye! Hey, it's me again. Did that seem like fun? All that D&D talk? Well, I could teach you if you want. Just go to my website, lincolnlhayes.com/storytelling, and take a look. I can teach it a couple hours, run through the basics with you, do a small session, see what you think. I can run it for just you and a couple friends, you and your family, you and some coworkers. What do you got to lose? If you don't like it, it's one night of TV you don't watch. But if you do like it, you have a hobby you can play for the rest of your life. Sounds good to me. Head over to my website, lincolnlhayes.com/storytelling. Let's chat. And thanks for watching Session Zero. See you next week.